Welcome back to One Piece Anime Review, episode number 89. This is doing the 877th episode of the anime, Parting Time, Pudding's Last Wish, which is also the final episode of the Whole Cake arc in the anime, and the 937th of the manga, Gyukimaru the Bandit Bridge. Let's talk about this particular episode, the final episode of the Whole Cake arc. Man, this arc was really long. Now, I will get to it in a minute, basically, once I talk about the episode. I will get my final thoughts on this particular arc. Okay, this episode is simply the end of this particular arc. The Straw Hats simply very successfully get out of Big Mom's territory, and of course, Jinbei, the Sun Pirates, and the German Six overhearing that they successfully say, okay, we're done buying them time. Let's just get out of here. And of course, we have also Sanji's siblings right back in the German Six home, though it's all still being attacked, despite the fact they're still trying to retreat. Judge suggests they should go to the south portion of the territory, because that's where the weakest defense is, so why the heck not? And of course, we also see that Aladdin, I'm calling him that because, well, I don't really remember exactly how you probably pronounce this man's name. But yeah, he's currently the captain of the Sun Pirates. He's there with his beautiful wife, the 29th daughter of Big Mom, this beautiful mermaid. Which the guy had to Aladdin. Basically, he is one lucky man to have this beautiful woman as his wife. Yep. And of course, Jinbei decides, yeah, of course, we're done fighting. Let's just get out of here. They could just, I don't know, steal one of their ships like Benj did. Yeah. Matter of fact, Benj is nowhere to be seen in this episode. It's like, yeah, he's like nowhere to be seen. It's possible that Wombat, the gigantic fish man, it's possible he may have been killed. Of course, I do see some of the fishmen get killed off in this episode. But not all of them per se, just basically a small chunk of them. But they're probably going to get anyways. But their fate is unknown. Them and the German 6-6 because Big Mom shows up. And of course they had this big they had music. Just like in the last couple episodes, they had music over a lot of fight scenes in here. Basically sort of a montage of all the big action pieces in here. And of course we also see, for the first time, as far as I can tell, first time post-time skip, we get a chance to see Red Leg Zeref. Yes, we finally get a chance to see him in the series, though he did show up in this chapter of the manga. Yeah, this is by far the first time I could think of he's actually made a return, because he hasn't done much of anything. I mean, he showed up occasionally since the Bastille arc, and mostly just for reacting where Sanji gets a new wanted poster, because the first time he got one was after Eros Lobby. Yeah, but that wasn't the first time we got a chance to see him after that. The first time was when Luffy got his first wanted poster. That was the first time that he got that they noticed that. And of course they hang it probably in their restaurant because, well, Luffy saved the restaurant. Despite the fact it was heavily damaged. Yep. And of course, there's this split shot. They did the same thing in the manga as well, where the thing ended with Red Leg Zeref and of course Sanji, who had been asked. He asked him, "Would you like to cook a meal?" Like, yay, yeah. And it was like, yeah, Brook, Carrot, Chopper, and Luffy all jumping on him because they're so happy to see him. Like, they're so happy he's finally getting a chance to cook a meal, like the first time in quite some time for them. And of course, the thing ends with Luffy, with them getting with this new dish that they're introducing, which also happened to be the same dish that Red Leg Zeref prepared for a couple pirates. Yep, this was overall a pretty good episode. Of course, there's also the added reaction to see everybody being shocked to hear that the Straw Hats have escaped the territory, escaped Big Mom's territory, so they can't exactly go after them because legally they can't. Yep. This overall was a really good episode, and nice little bow to wrap up on when it comes to particular arc, though. Next week, it starts the Revere arc. Yep, we're finally getting a chance to see this adapted to the anime, especially since the chapter system came out just last year. Yep. Now for my final thoughts on this arc in the anime. Man, this arc was very long. Like, good God, this was like 95 episodes. Yes, this is by far the second longest arc of the entire series. Longest is still Dressrosa at 118 episodes. Of course, that took me, when I was watching that particular, it took me 2 weeks to get that whole season because how long it was. This season, now I started the season roughly late in 2017. That's when I started the season. Now, those are making 95 episodes. Why did it take me so long to finish the season? Because when I start watching this particular show, this was the current season that it was on. Now, the episode that had just aired, by the time I had finally caught up with the series, of course, this was in September of 2017. It was, let's see. Oh yeah, it was when Luffy and Nami basically take on General Cracker. Yeah, that's when I finally caught up with the series, and basically, I'm watching it on a regular basis, reviewing this since episode number 804. The episode aired today was 877. So, for a little over a year, I have been watching this show, and this is the current season this has been on. And this I did review in my 18th episode of this anime review series. Yeah, those are thinking why this thing is so long is because, well, the season itself is really long. So, roughly, I've been reviewing new episodes since episode 804. That was actually 805 was the first one I actually watched. So roughly for like 72 episodes. Yep, 72. You're thinking 72 plus 18 is that even close to the number I think? No, because I also did a couple episodes on the OVAs and the films. I did some specials on the films as well. Of course, there were a couple episodes that didn't even have episodes of the anime. I just reviewed new chapter of the manga because the anime skipped a week. Yeah, this happened a few times. But my gosh, this arc was real long. And there was a reason why it was so long. Because the series had this thing where, with the exception of one other time aside from the last few episodes, where they would do this thing where they would cut the chapter in half. Of course, they add stuff to it. Excuse me, and it is a lot in the anime, where they would take one half of a chapter, like for one episode, adapt the second half for the second episode. Depends on the pages they adapt per episode. Of course, since like episode like 800, I think it was 865, I think it was, but basically when this arc was finally wrapping up, yeah, for the past like I'd say 10 episodes, they're doing this thing where they adapted in. Actually, it was starting when they adapted chapter 896. From that point forward, they've been just adapting an entire chapter. They did do this briefly for a few episodes before they stopped and then just went back to the old format of just splitting in half, just doing this many amount of pages from this chapter to this episode, and then finishing up next episode, starting up next chapter. They did this a lot through this whole thing, and that's the reason, mainly one of the reasons why this arc was so long in the anime. Because in the manga, this took over a little over a year. The anime took almost 2 years just to air this particular thing as the manga. This was roughly a 78 chapter arc. The anime adapted in 95 episodes. Yes, really, really long. Of course, there was at some points where the anime was basically getting kind of lackluster, and the manga basically was progressing forward, because when I caught up with the manga, pretty much this is the arc I caught up with. It was basically the chapters when they got to, I believe it was when they got to the tea party. That's when basically when I caught up with the manga. Of course, they caught up with that in the anime, like roughly with the episode. Let me look it up on here because I know it was not that long ago. I think it was. It was. Yeah, it was like episode like 832. That's when they finally caught up with where I had caught up with in the manga. Yes. And of course, I have been reviewing the thing since then, like, because, well, and at least gotta hate it to the anime for doing a very good job of adapting the Luffy versus Katakuri fight, because it was awesome in the manga and just as awesome in the anime. Though they did add a few moves. They made it slightly longer than it was in the manga. Like the manga, this took up like roughly about 20 chapters. It's a little bit longer than the anime, but at least I gotta praise the anime for actually having it where it was interesting. And oh yeah, there's one other thing. Speaking of Katakuri, there's an interesting little scene where they actually expand upon his sort of his childhood and the fact that he was sort of teased as a child because of his mouth. Not because he said his mouth. No, no, no. Because of the whole teeth thing. Yes. Yeah, as for who his father is, well, Big Mom had 43 ex-husbands, so it could have been any one of them of who could be his father. Yeah. And we also get a chance to see Breely, like how she got that scar across her face. Yeah, that's actually, they don't show the action per se, but it does happen in a flashback, like afterwards, where she's cut. Like you see, like from the back, you don't see like you don't see the slice be cut on her face. My guess is, I think even the anime knows that's very inappropriate to show. You can show her from behind her head and see her look like from the other point of view, like camera should I see a face being slashed, and of course showing it later, of course, the blood from it. My guess is the animators probably knew this would be inappropriate to show. As far as I can tell, I think the manga ever did this. No, they ever did. But I appreciate it. And apparently, Katakuri was blushing at the fact that apparently when they got back to present day, of course, Breely decided to take a first aid kit to go treat Katakuri's wounds. Why not? He's a sister. And apparently she had been watching him in the mirrors. And he's blushing at that. Implying there might be something more between these two, but nothing is really delved upon at all. As far as I can tell, Katakuri is very protective of Breely. Yes, he's very protective of his sister. And when they were younger, she called him Big Bro. A lot of the time, that's simply put what these characters call themselves. Like the younger ones call their older brothers, they call him Big Bro. Yeah. Breely, I would not be surprised though if Breely found a way to hook it up with Caesar Clown, because these look almost exactly alike. Though there's no explanation that when she was younger, she looked like she had her skin was like very normal to that of Katakuri's. And then for some reason when she got older, her skin became more of a darker reflection of herself. Basically like a very purple skin. Her nose is pretty much the same as it was basically when they showed her in childhood. But her skin is like a different color. I get the fact she grew it up. And it's odd though from the camera angle the way they show Breely. And it showed that it looked like it was implying though that Katakuri was staring at her chest. I don't know why the camera angle did that for, but they did. It's like they look up and oh, we see Breely's chest. For some reason. I have no idea why. But pretty much toward the second half, this particular arc gets really kicked in high gear once they bring in Caesar Clown. Yes. And here's something really weird though. Caesar Clown, Capone's gang, and of course the Gemma 66 and the Sun Pirates, Jinbei, it's completely unknown what happens to them because they are never seen again after this. They're not even seeing the current arc. Which I'll talk about the current arc right now. Yeah, let's talk about this new arc. New chapter of Wano. Now, I should point out though, for this particular chapter, there is no cover story at all. We have a great cover piece by Oda featuring the Straw Hats. Yep. Though for some reason they don't feature Chopper in this particular thing, though. Maybe Chopper came to... It's kind of implied this based on real life pirates, maybe, but I'm not really sure. But it's a very good depiction. Okay, so the chapter starts off with Big Mom and a little girl who's a friend of Luffy's. And of course, they're running back to her. This is seen for roughly like one page. And then we cut back to Luffy in the prison where he goes on like round 2. And of course, they mention Ciberelli in this chapter. Of course, we see. And we cut back to Zoro versus this bandit warrior. And they have their brawl. And it takes up a good chunk of the chapter. And then we see like a woman. I don't know. This is not Nika Robb, and I can tell look, this is not Nika Robb. I think it's one of the other women in this series, in this arc. Yeah, where this little girl like telling Zoro to save her, and of course they continue their fight. And a samurai warrior shows a wanted criminal named Kamazu the Killer. Yeah, this is not one of the This is probably somebody who's basically from this area. It's not the madman from Captain Kidd's crew. It's somebody else. Of course, Zoro fights him. Fight takes up a good chunk of the chapter, and then the chapter ends with Zoro basically smiling very sinisterly. It looks like maybe it looks like he may have lost. Yeah, this was roughly just. I appreciate though the fact that the manga does follow up with the end of the previous chapter with Zoro in this fight with that giant like mink, whatever. Basically, this giant bandit. And I do appreciate though that half the chapter is dedicated to that. Interesting though that Luffy's in this chapter roughly for 2 pages. He's the main character of the series, and he appears for 2 pages. Isn't that quite weird? Yeah. This overall was a good chapter, and I'm interested in more. Hopefully next week picks up with this thing, plus with a little bit more with Luffy. I'm not sure exactly if they're going to have a whole chapter dedicated to what Chopper is up to this whole thing. One character I haven't seen in quite some time in this arc is Brook. He's been absent for a good chunk of this arc. No idea why. I mean, last I know about him, he was basically working with Nami, Robin, and the let's just say the older veteran ninja, the one ninja Kanochi. That was the last time I saw him. But I'm so wondering. Yeah, it's curious though. He's barely done anything this whole arc, and this is Brook, mind you, a guy who happens to be one of the strongest members of the crew, and he's done nothing. Though yes, he is a skeleton. That is true. But he's a very good fighter. I kind of wish he'd do something this arc, but who knows? Yeah. So that's particularly it for this particular review. I have 2 more videos I'm doing right after this one. One, of course, is the Comic Corner. The other, of course, review of the newest chapter of My Hero Academia. Okay? But there'll be also 4 other videos aside from these 2 other ones I'm doing. Basically, with another Comic Corner, a review of Boruto, and Dragon Ball Super. And, of course, 7 Deadly Sins. I'll review the newest chapter of that, okay? But see you next review. Bye.